It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. These words echo in my mind every time Tyler Durden is brought up. His rebellious, anti-authoritarian stance masks a serious issue, an antisocial personality disorder. With Fight Club's lasting impact, isn't it crucial to delve into the intricate psyche of this iconic character?
Lily, I'm particularly interested in how this psychology plays into Durden's dynamic with other characters. As you mentioned, he was a catalyst for anarchy, but were these antisocial traits primarily influencing his actions?
Well, Donald, Fight Club's marketing was ingenious, abstractly hinting towards Durden's antisocial personality. But it's not just about the marketing. The film itself took us on an intense journey inside Durden's mind.
Exactly, Matthew. Fight Club certainly offers a unique, if unsettling, character study. Drawing from my environmental background, I'm compelled by the minimalistic ideology Durden advocates. But with his anarchic tendencies setting the stage for Fight Club, I'm wondering if we're seeing a character struggling with deep-rooted mental health issues here. Maybe someone with more knowledge on this disorder can shed some light.
His radical behaviour does seem to be a manifestation of something far more than just rebelliousness.
Well, it's clear we have much to dissect. Over the course of this episode, we'll be putting Tyler Durden and his antisocial personality disorder under the psychological microscope. Strap in. Let's dive right into Tyler Durden's persona. His introduction is anything but conventional. He's this entrepreneurial soap salesman who's instantly charismatic, filled with wisdom beyond his age, isn't he?
Absolutely, Matthew. He's almost bigger than life. From his first appearance, Durden was an invincible, rebellious character. Viewers, just like the narrator, were instantly drawn to his charisma and unconventional wisdom.
In juxtaposition with the anonymous narrator, who's living a mundane, repetitive life, Durden steps in as a savior, offering an escape from the ordinary. We see this dynamic shift in the narrator's life once Durden enters.
Do you think that Durden's over-the-top character plays a part in his relationship with the narrator? Like, does the narrator, in his monotonous existence, potentially see his ideal self in Tyler?
A point well raised, Lily. It could likely be that the narrator sees everything he's not, but wished to be, in Tyler Durden. He's an outlet for the narrator's repressed desires.
Also, let's not forget about the infamous Fight Club. Could it be a manifestation of the narrator's self-loathing, facilitated by Tyler?
That's an interesting take, Matthew. It seems like through Tyler, the narrator could not only rebel against societal norms, but also inflict physical pain mirroring his internal suffering.
In essence, the Fight Club becomes their shared cathartic escape, driving them deeper into anarchy.
How about Marla Singer? Tyler's relation with her certainly gave rise to numerous complexities in the narrative.
Yes, Lily. And those complexities aren't just skin deep. Marla, in many ways, acts as a mirror to Tyler's rebellion. Her own disinterest in societal norms parallels Tyler's.
And let's not forget that Marla essentially represented everything Tyler aimed to destroy: the hooks of consumerism, the societal construct of gender norms. His rejection of it all is evident in his volatile relationship with Marla.
Right. But what about his rebellion against corporate America? His ideal of a world free from corporate greed and consumerism played a large role in his activities. Any thoughts on that?
Certainly. Tyler's fight against corporates wasn't a mere ideological battle. It was essentially him railing against societal expectations, a somewhat distorted fight for freedom. So his actions, destructive as they may seem, were an expression of his overpowering need for control, for autonomy.
Agreed. Tyler Durden's behaviour was fundamentally an expression of his antisocial personality. In fact, his antipathy towards the structures of capitalism could very well be seen as the manifestation of his antisocial conduct.
You know, that does make sense. Tyler's entire anti-establishment stance was simply another facet of his social rebellion. In fact, that's exactly why his character was so compelling.
And of course, can we truly say we understand Tyler Durden if we don't account for these deeper psychological layers?
For sure, Donald. Any attempt to understand Tyler Durden without delving into his relationships and rebellious attitude would be incomplete, if not misleading.
Tyler Durden, an anarchist at heart or an antisocial personality?
It's not particularly black and white, Donald. In fact, I believe his anarchist tendencies are a part of, or rather a manifestation of, his antisocial personality.
Interesting perspective, Lily. But isn't anarchy against societal norms?
Absolutely, Donald. Anarchy by its very definition is against societal norms. People with antisocial personality disorder typically have a disregard for right and wrong, and often violate the law and the rights of others. Tyler Durden rebelled against the societal norms through his anarchist views, which is a clear sign of antisocial personality disorder.
Is it fair to say that Tyler also illustrated opposition to societal norms through his creation of Fight Club?
Yes, Matthew. Fight Club was essentially a playground for Tyler to express his anarchist ideologies, unshackled by societal norms. Characters suffering from similar antisocial personality disorders often resort to such drastic means.
That's so true. The violence, recklessness, and complete disregard for law are all part of Tyler's antisocial personality. The concept of, you're not your job, you're not the car you drive, you're not your wallet, all directly point to Tyler's defiance to societal norms, highlighting his antisocial behavioral traits.
So, to sum it up, Tyler Durden's disregard for societal norms, along with his anarchist philosophies, actually reveal his antisocial personality disorder. The creation of Fight Club, his relationships, even his compelling ideologies, are essentially expressions of his antisocial behavior. Durden's line, "It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything," seems to encapsulate his entire philosophy, doesn't it?
Yes, by surrendering possessions, attachments, and societal roles, he proposes liberation. There's an undercurrent of actual freedom, yet it's prompted by loss.
It's an extreme form of Buddhism's detachment principle, isn't it? Of course, Durden takes it to a literal extent. In a way, he's shedding his learned habits and roles, which cage his own perceptions. Perhaps the liberation he speaks of is the freedom to define one's own reality?
That's a fascinating perspective, Lily. Fight Club's messages, presented through Durden, often strike that existential nerve.
Yet we should remember the extreme method Durden employed to reach this liberation. It goes from giving up material possessions to physically fighting out the norms tied to himself.
And therein lies the irony. Durden's freedom seems less about personal growth and more about the breakdown of societal conditioning. It's anarchy, not evolution.
Would it be safe to suggest that this approach, while resonating with Durden's antisocial personality, is not a realistic or healthy solution?
Certainly. It's nothing short of a rebellion against societal dictation. Yet it must also be regarded as a desperate measure, echoing Durden's disturbing behavior. Its extreme nature only reinforces his inability to adhere to societal pressure and norms, thus showcasing his antisocial personality.
Yes, and we see this quote influencing Durden's actions throughout the movie. It becomes a mantra of sorts to guide his antisocial conquests.
Let's evaluate Durden's philosophy of losing everything. Remember that in Fight Club, this doesn't just mean materialistic possessions.
Right, Lily. To Durden, losing everything also includes societal norms, individual identities, and human dignity.
Essentially, you're suggesting that Durden is echoing his mantra of liberation by way of destruction. It's a radical shedding of the ego and societal rules. But does he not replace one set of dogmatic rules with another?
That's insightful, Donald. He does indeed. His own ideas of this so-called freedom emerge as new rules within Fight Club. The club starts with a desire for liberation, but ultimately becomes just another institution with its own stringent regulations.
One might argue that it's less about freedom and more about establishing his own order over the perceived chaos of the current one.
Is that truly liberation then? Or Durden just enforcing his own idealized world order?
It's worth debating, Donald. Although Durden seems to advocate for freedom, in reality, his philosophy is enforced top-down, without consent or negotiation. There is something highly dictatorial about this so-called liberation.
Thus, beneath the illusion of anarchy, Fight Club adheres to a similar structure as the world outside it. Quite the contradiction. Let's now link Durden's impulsive, reckless behaviour to traits of antisocial personality disorder.
When we examine Durden's behavior in Fight Club, we can see a pattern of constant disregard for societal norms and rights of others. These features, such as his creation of the Fight Club itself, are hallmarks of antisocial personality disorder.
But don't we also see his indiscriminate aggression even outside of the ring?
Yes, Donald, you're correct. Durden displays persistent irresponsibility, an inability to feel remorse, and volatile aggression. Remember, these are symptoms of an antisocial behavior.
Let's recall the moment when Durden decides to demolish beautiful pieces of corporate art in public places. Is this not an example of erratic, impulsive behavior?
Absolutely, Matthew. That act of pure destruction, of rebelling against not just the social construct but the authority and the law, defines antisocial personality disorder.
He seems to derive satisfaction from the extent of his anarchy, doesn't he?
True, Donald. Durden's relentless delight in chaos and his persistent efforts to invite others into his destructive path might be indications of his disorder.
But we need to be careful before concluding. Antisocial personality disorder is a complex condition and can't be confirmed by a few cinematic depictions alone. Durden's character represents a graphic illustration, but real-life diagnosis requires professional psychological assessment.
Matthew, jumping back to your earlier point about Durden's impulse to create chaos and destruction, don't you find it interesting that despite his reckless behaviour, he still maintains some level of charm?
Yes, although his actions are rash and see him hurt others, there is an allure to his character, perhaps because of his conviction and charisma. However, this doesn't absolve him of his dangerous tendencies. Lily, as someone who isn't completely familiar with the symptoms of antisocial personality disorder, wouldn't you agree that Durden's blatant disregard for the rights of others and his uncompromising aggression are quite disturbing?
Well, Matthew, it is undeniably disturbing, this blatant disregard. But Durden's character is an exaggerated portrayal. What's worth noting is, in real life, individuals with antisocial personality disorder are not necessarily violent. They can be deceitful and manipulative too.
Right. The wide spectrum of this disorder makes Durden's character just one extreme example. Yet, Matthew, can you elaborate on the impact of this character's portrayal in the context of film marketing?
Sure, Donald. Durden's character is in fact a marketing goldmine. His unpredictable nature and his philosophy of anarchy against corporatism intrigue audiences. It's almost as if the audience is fascinated by the danger he represents, and this morbid curiosity contributes to the film's popularity.
That's quite spot on. The romanticization of such characters often comes with the risk of trivializing serious mental health issues. It's vital to distinguish the fact that this is only a fictional portrayal, and real-life manifestations can differ significantly.
But what about Durden's relationships? They must have had a significant impact on him.
The relationship between Durden and the narrator is quite complex, to say the least. They might be two halves of the same person, but Durden's dominance and manipulation of the situation points to the unbalance.
That toxic dynamic gives insight into how an antisocial personality can overshadow the otherwise rational side. It's fascinating to see how Durden controlled the narrator and shaped the narrative.
Right, Lily, and Tyler's relationship with Marla Singer only added fuel to the fire. He threatens her, manipulates her feelings, yet there's a strange bond.
For a completely uninformed person, could you break down, Matthew, why that bond may seem strange?
Well, Donald, Marla is drawn to this destructive and chaotic character, but there's definitely a toxic codependency at work here. Their relationship is anything but healthy. It's manipulative and volatile.
And the fact that all this stems from the mind of a single individual is quite alarming. The inner conflict, relationships, everything. It's chaos unfolding right within one's mind.
Exactly. It's a testament to how an antisocial personality can influence not just the individual's actions, but his entire perception of the world.
From the broader perspective, how does Durden's interaction with other fighters in Fight Club feed his antisocial tendencies?
That's an interesting question, Lily. The dynamics in Fight Club are unique, but in a way, you can see them mirroring real-world social structures. Durden gains respect and power through acts of aggression and dominance, not dissimilar to certain structures in the society, where such behaviors sometimes enable one to climb up the social ladder.
It's like he created a cult of personality around himself with Fight Club, right?
That's an apt observation, Donald. The members of Fight Club idolize Durden. They follow him blindly, even into dangerous situations. This gives him the power and control he craves, and each fight becomes a validation of his superiority.
But Durden says there are no leaders in Fight Club, so how does he influence them?
That's an illusion he creates. Even though he preaches about the absence of hierarchy, he subtly places himself in control, manipulating the others in the group. This manipulation, coupled with his aggressive and impulsive behavior, points towards an antisocial personality disorder.
And this manipulation extends towards the narrator of the story, right?
That's correct. The narrator is completely under the influence of Durden, even manipulated into forming Project Mayhem. It's just another example of the power dynamics at play.
Yes, and it's alarming how Durden spins his web of control. It's crucial to note how these interactions shape his antisocial behavior. He's manipulating people, even while apparently rebelling against manipulative societal structures.
So, what's incredible to examine in the film is the progressive evolution of Tyler Durden. What do you think are the defining moments in the film that showcase changes in his character, Matthew?
Oh, there are many. But if you look at the pivotal scenes chronologically, it starts with Tyler's introduction as a charismatic stranger. His immediate rapport with the narrator really sets this stage.
I remember that scene. It's when the narrator's apartment has just blown up. And amidst all that chaos, Tyler was this beacon of calm.
Right. Next, we see their friendship evolve and the subsequent establishment of Fight Club. This could be seen as Tyler's initial exploration on his antisocial tendencies. Creating a secret society to release human aggression, it's here we witness the inception of Tyler's craving for dominance and control.
And then there's the formation of Project Mayhem.
Yes, exactly. It's a significant shift in Tyler's characterization. His disregard for the violent consequences of his actions becomes more evident. His once charisma turns increasingly manipulative and destructive. The character that was introduced to us as a leaderless organizer slowly transforms into a dictatorial figure.
And all of this leads up to that big plot twist, right? When the link between the narrator and Tyler is finally revealed.
Definitely. The twist that Tyler is in fact an aspect of the narrator's mind just adds another level to his antisocial behavior. It portrays how he's created to fulfill the narrator's repressed desires for chaos and freedom. This breaking point really cements the disorder.
This makes me wonder, how much did this realization affect our perception of Tyler's antisocial tendencies?
Well, it brought out a new angle. We can list all the signs of antisocial behavior: impulsiveness, lack of remorse, manipulation, but eventually it also highlighted the inner turmoil and conflict occurring within the narrator. The severity of the disorder really gets underscored, and that's one of the reasons why Fight Club was so hard-hitting.
So let's talk about the style of narrative in Fight Club. The entire story is told from the narrator's point of view, which seems to be a meticulous design by the director David Fincher. Wouldn't you say that's intentionally used to manipulate our perception of Tyler, Matthew?
It definitely seems that way. The viewer enters the story already engulfed in the world of the narrator. We only get as much of Tyler as the narrator does. It's not until the end that we realize he was actually a figment of the narrator's imagination, a manifestation of his darkest desires, which in turn alters the viewer's perception drastically.
That gives us a very unique experience, right? We're led to question everything we've come to believe about Tyler throughout the film.
Yes, the narrative choice not only adds layers of depth to the plot, but also enhances our experience as the audience.
I am intrigued by the fight scenes in particular. They're downright brutal, with no holds barred. And given their frequency, wouldn't those fights also be a symbolic representation of Tyler's antisocial tendencies?
That's a point to ponder. Antisocial tendencies often translate into lack of concern for self or others, impulsiveness, and consistent pattern of rule-breaking, which can be seen in those gruesome fight scenes. There's definite satisfaction and even exhilaration that Tyler derives from the chaos of these fights. It's an embodiment of their departure from societal norms.
True. The narrative style and fight scenes together enrich our understanding of Tyler. This is no ordinary character, but a complex symbol that demands to be unpacked.
It's only after we've lost everything that we can do anything. This line from Tyler Durden is certainly one for the ages. What do you make of it, Lily?
It's a fundamentally anti-ego philosophy, similar to Buddhist teachings about detaching from material things. Not knowing the nuances of antisocial personality disorder, though, I wonder if this detachment theme is somehow connected. Donald, any thoughts?
I'd say that quote displays Tyler's impulsive nature and total disregard for societal norms, signs of antisocial behaviour, perhaps. But my understanding of psychology is limited. Still, there's another quote which intrigues me. It's only when we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. What's your take on this, Matthew?
That's an extension of the previous quote we analysed, and it strikes at the heart of the contradictions in Durden's character. While it may hint at freedom and liberation, it does so in the anarchic sense. By losing everything, one abandons their responsibilities and obligations, which is symptomatic of the persistent irresponsibility associated with antisocial personality disorder.
Fascinating. Then the thread that's connecting these quotes is indeed Tyler's antisocial personality disorder. Though at first glance they seem to speak to a less bound life, it's almost unsettling to realize they aren't as liberating as they appear.
Yes, Tyler's quotes are certainly thought-provoking, giving us significant insights into his psychological state and behaviour. They are dramatic and radical that make the audience mull over the norms of society, unknowingly amplifying his antisocial characteristics. Now it's intriguing to juxtapose Tyler's behaviour alongside real-life instances of antisocial personality disorder. What do you reckon, Lily?
Sure, but remember, I'm not a psychologist. However, from what we've discussed, general traits like persistent irresponsibility, recklessness, and the consistent pattern of disregarding rights of others resonate with Tyler's character. In real-life instances, too, these traits are dominant.
Recall that scene where Tyler calmly puts his hand in the driver's seat and crashes a car, just because he was bored. Seems a lot like impulsive behaviour and lack of self-preservation, doesn't it?
That indeed mirrors the real characteristic of individuals suffering from antisocial personality disorder. Their manifest disregard for safety, not only for themselves but for others too, as we see in Tyler's behaviour throughout the movie, confirms the parallels we're drawing.
Then there's also Durden's classic delinquency. Remember his actions against corporate America, his disregard for societal norms, and him leading a whole underground movement, all while showing zero remorse or empathy.
Clearly, the portrayal of Durden aligns with the symptoms recognized in modern psychological studies of antisocial personality disorder. However, the line that separates fiction from reality must always be remembered.
Certainly, Matthew. Durden is an exaggerated cinematic portrayal, and real-life individuals with this disorder may not necessarily reflect such extreme behaviours. What we discuss here is more of an academic hypothesis on a film character than any diagnostic practice. It's fascinating, really. Tyler's character evokes both fear and admiration, a complex character indeed.
Yes, the radical dichotomy makes him intriguing. But back to the psychological analysis. Wouldn't you agree that the movie's portrayal of mental health is somewhat problematic?
From a marketing perspective, the unconventional narrative of a serious disorder surely adds a layer of intrigue. But yes, it could have been executed differently for a more empathetic understanding.
Exactly. While Fight Club carved a niche for itself by exploring the notion of antisocial behavior, perhaps a more well-rounded approach to Tyler's condition could foster better audience understanding.
Roundtable treatment of complex issues like mental health can invite nuanced interpretations, which I feel the movie missed. Donald, you being our film connoisseur, how was the audience's reception?
Well, Matthew, audience interpretations wildly vary. Some found Tyler's antisocial behaviour thrilling, others viewed it as a critical flaw. But that's the essence of master storytelling, isn't it?
But Donald, shouldn't such a serious matter like antisocial personality disorder be addressed more responsibly, without embellishing or romanticizing it for entertainment?
Absolutely, Lily. Perhaps our exploration here today can help broaden the conversation around more responsible representation in popular media.
And that responsibility lies not just with the creators, but the audience too, to understand and interpret these themes critically and empathetically.